This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, is coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you again.
We're having a lovely day in the neighborhood, very northwesty, and today we are going to be talking about creating as consciousness beyond thought. Our thoughts are filled with limits, values, and judgments. And when we create as the infinite essence that we are, we're manifesting from beyond thought, from within the field of unified consciousness, also known as heart-centered awareness. So stay tuned, because we are going to talk about creating with unlimited possibilities and infinite potential.
Ooh, sounds good. Lots going on in the world.
Infinite. I pronounce that interestingly.
That's all right.
Infinite.
So here's an invitation to go deeper with us, to connect with us beyond the show. You can join us at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you're going to find information about all our podcasts. Will be listed there. Both Joan and I have great blogs. Mine comes out on Mondays. Her comes out on Friday. So you can always get the latest there. We list all our meetups, and Joan will tell you about hers. Mine here are in Portland, Oregon. And they meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can come at any time, and where we continue the conversation.
Any time during the time on the Tuesday.
On Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's all listed on the
Midnight,
website.
someone knocks on the door.
That's right. And then you can find out about Joan and I in our sessions there, and we do different kinds of things, and all about the Facebook connection for Joan and me. You got to give them all that. You're so good at all that.
Okay, sure. And I'll just say that I think your meetups, your meetups are on Tuesday night and Thursday afternoon.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're really fun. She has a lovely, lovely house, very artistically decorated, but the energy of your meetups is just fantastic.
You know, Joan, I have to tell you, when people come, and if they come for the first time, once they get into it, and then I've been so complimented by people who said, this feels so good to be here. And I take that as the compliment that it is. So any place can feel so good, but I'm glad we start here.
You are unique at being able to create that field of heart-centered awareness.
Thank you. So tell them more about your stuff.
Yes, and so mine are completely different. Because mine are actual conversations. And I hold them all around the Puget Sound. The ones coming up this week, I'm doing a meetup on Vashon Island on Saturday afternoon at 1:30 at the library, and one in Bellevue the following week on April 23rd, my birthday, at 2 o'clock at, I believe it's the downtown library. I do them once a month in Seattle and once a month in Tacoma as well, and once a month in University Place. I think that's on the 26th. And we have conversations and sharing our inexplicable experiences of expansion. And at the end, after we've talked ourselves out, then we'll get up and walk through parallel universes. And that completely transforms people's lives. And it's very subtle, but it's very profound. This work is very, very subtle. You're being transformed even as you listen to this. So if you come away from this listening to our podcast and things just are unfolding differently in your life, it's because you listen to us.
And it's real, people.
Yes.
It's real. See, and that's the key is allowing yourself to experience something different. And that's what the show is all about, experiencing something different. And it works whether you're aware of it or not. It's just easier when you become aware of it. It makes your life unfold that much quicker. But change is always happening around us, and states of reality. States of reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
And stated reality.
Yeah.
We have a conference call that we hold once a month on the third Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. So if you're non-local and not able to come to our meetups, if you come to the Conscious Conference Call, you can have that same experience. It's also like having the radio show, but up close and personal with like a Q&A where you can talk to us directly. And it's a really lovely, lovely experience. And we also record it for you. You will have to go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, to learn how to sign up for that. But that is coming up on the 20th, which is next week.
Next week, 7 p.m. Pacific. So you want to join us there. And what are the YouTube address and all that stuff, Joan? You got Twitter and Facebook.
Yes, Twitter and YouTube. We
Yeah.
post, I've been posting my YouTubes on the website. I'm not certain whether, your invisible friend is posting YouTubes. I totally blanked on his name.
Boyd.
So Boyd is actually the fellow who also has done our theme song too. So
Yeah.
you hear his lovely, feels like a NPR kind of voice, and he does our YouTube channel there as well. And it should be being posted on our website as well. So if it's not, it will be soon. So by the time you listen to this, it'll be on the website.
And what are those Facebook addresses?
Facebook is Janet's name, which is Janet Barrett, my name, which is Joan Newcomb, and the show's name, which is Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can go to any one of those and join the group and join the fun, and there's another way to interact with us on Facebook. If you follow Twitter, and I just absolutely love Twitter, the show is on Twitter at Joan and Janet, and I'm on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. Run my name all together, and I retweet obligatory corgis in between inflammatory political statements and interesting facts from places like India, Sweden, Ireland, England, because I just love all those places that I used to live.
Got it. And what are you offering your 12 weeks for transformation? Tell people about that.
I have a space open. I do private mentoring, private coaching, and this is a combination of coaching and consciousness training, so these techniques like parallel universes and all. And I hold a powerful space for you to completely change your life. If you are in the midst of this kind of inexplicable experience of expansion and you want a completely new way to navigate, you want to experience your life with more effortless ease and would like the assistance holding that space of transformation and also accountability, because it's not just like something you can sign up with, people sign up for courses and then they forget to take them. This is actually me working with you and you're learning new things as well. And it's a pretty amazing experience. 12 weeks of transformation. Your life will be transformed. And you can find that actually at my website, which is joan-newcomb.com.
It's so important. I highly recommend working with Joan this way as our identities are shifting, as our identities are coming undone, as we're exploring, certainly in group last night we talked, this came up a great deal about what do we do when the old stuff doesn't fit anymore? So in working with Joan this way, you can really help escort you into utilizing your tools. So please consider doing that. And then, so today we're talking about creating this consciousness beyond thought, because we can appreciate how the mind is a trap, and we have to go to this place of accessing heart-centered awareness, field of unified consciousness, where information is just available, where it's the field of potential. So what do we want them to know about that before we go to break?
Okay, in a couple minutes or less. Law of attraction and The Secret and all those things are a very powerful way for people to learn that they can manifest outside of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And there are things about that are very magical. And yet often people find that they do the vision boards and they do the affirmations and there's always a glitch. Mm-hmm. And the reason is when you are working from the realm of thought, which is very powerful, thoughts become things. If you just unconsciously think about something or daydream about something, you'll see it popping into your life within 2 years. That's without any effort. There's a 2-year cycle of manifestation. However, the mind that is creating the thought, the mind that is creating those affirmations and looking at that vision board is coming from a space of lack. It's coming from a space of not having. So it is reacting to that I don't have this stuff and I want this stuff. Right. And I want it this way and I want it my way and I want it how this way is. And it's all coming from a space of limitations. Mm-hmm. When what's happening now is that we are growing greater as consciousness. We're experiencing ourselves as consciousness more in our physical forms than ever before. What happens when you start manifesting from consciousness is you start to create a life beyond your imagination. The results are completely whimsical, different, and unlike what you might have ever experienced before. And so we're going to talk more about that right after the break. I want to let you know that you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I am Joan along here with Janet, and we will be right back after these messages.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about creating his consciousness beyond thought.
Okay, we can do it. We have thoughts, and then we are beyond our thoughts. So we're going to see how real we can make that for everyone. So let's see about bringing our awareness to heart-centered space. Now, we're already there. What we're doing is we're just opening up your awareness that you're there. So, just breathe. Whatever you're busy doing, you can still keep doing that. The part of you that is listening, right? That's subconscious, that's listening and going, lapping like a dog. You know, yeah, it's excited. So just relax. So whether you're driving or cooking or whatever you might be doing, just notice, bring in focus into your heart, be appreciative. Then notice your emotional terrain. Yes, I have emotions running. We always do. We like some of them, we don't. It doesn't really matter. That's your judgment part. So let go of that. Just allow yourself to notice that you have emotions. And then we're going to go into a more aware place. And that's as yourself as infinite. The core, the essence of all. It's right there. All you have to do is just tweak your sense. And this is the infinite sea of potential. This is neutral territory. This is grace. Warmth, support, non-judgment. Universal field. It's whatever you want it, whatever your reference is. It is the place that there is no definition. It's where you and I are one. So everything gets a little soft, gets a little centered, and in the centering is this immense expansiveness. So just notice. Oh, that feels nice. What you noticing, Joan?
Yeah, I'm feeling that soft and centeredness as well. Like it feels like no, it doesn't. I was going to say, it feels like the eye of the hurricane. The calm before the storm. Actually, it does, but it does kind of feel like you're in some place cozy and warm, regardless of what's going on the outside. And there's so much noise going on outside. There's so much chaos and drama, and it does feel such a relief to be here.
Well, and that feels very, very distant, right? The clamor. The clamor that's part of life and experiencing all of us on an energetic level and everything on an energetic level. It's very busy out there. So when you relax your sense of resistance and limits and directions, that's where you come to just the quiet, the sacredness, the just potential. And the street cleaners and the power washers can still be out there, but they're not in a disorienting sort of pattern. They become part of the pattern.
Military aircraft going overhead.
Yeah. Well, we're safe. Okay, we know we're safe.
And we'll be the first place bombed when North Korea gets pissed off.
Yeah, oh gosh. Okay. So what do we want to talk about? Creating this consciousness.
Changing the reality. I can't, my mind is going away from something it doesn't want. Oh, bad.
Well, it can be like that. I mean, we want to, you and I have been doing this for a long time, and for the listeners who might be new to this or who just are looking for something different or whatever, it's not that we live in heart space all the time. We come and go. And for me, that's pretty in and out, right? There's no separateness anymore for consciousness and self as self. It is a flow of information that's always working. It's just where my awareness is taking me in that. And as I do that, that really starts to reorient what I perceive myself to be and what's out there and what I want to create in my life. So, important. Mindsets. It's all about mindsets.
Yeah. What she said.
Well, what have you been noticing coming up? We noticed identity last night we noticed that we couldn't allow ourselves to be foolish. There were all these conditions on it. And so the outside and how it viewed us, because foolish is not necessarily something we recognize in ourselves without an outside saying you're being foolish. So we were just looking at all this judgment information that was just loosening up. It was quite nice.
Well, what I get from that is playfulness. And the judgment of playfulness as being foolish. And yet when you are consciousness, to me, the attributes of consciousness is playfulness, is amusement, is wonder. It's almost like approaching the world with a childlike wonder. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's when the consciousness techniques that I do work. That's when I feel the woo kind of feeling and fall into a brand new reality. And there's so much serious stuff going on in the world.
Yeah, you bring up a good awareness, Joan. The ability to compartmentalize. We acknowledge there's the child in us. No, we are the child. We are the child who's gained experience. We are the innocence that's evolved. When you put the classification child and adult, you get a real distinct, hard sense of being for me that I notice. We were talking about this last night, is we want to carry that childlike enthusiasm, not because we aren't that. We are that. But we've classified it as we got through those teen years and got into society and got into awareness of the bigger picture about, well, it doesn't celebrate childness because we don't celebrate new and curiosity and all these things.
Childlikeness doesn't celebrate childlikeness. Yes.
Yeah. Right? It's like more punishment oriented. And if that's what maturity is, then screw it.
That's why we have a second childhood. Yes. We finally go, I've been grown up long enough. I'm going back to diapers.
Right. You do notice that with older people is a lot of them realize they're not having to play the game so much and they start to relax and they can start to enjoy their grandchildren because they weren't with their children. They are different with their grandchildren than they were with their children.
Well, because when they throw up or need a diaper change, they hand them back. You can go home and have a full night's sleep.
Right. But it was about that child. What does she want? What does he want? Right? And then,
we have all those aspects within us. It's we're like a veritable school bus or a family van or something of different aspects, and steering us back to creating as consciousness and beyond thought is it is an interesting subject as my mind starts to comment on it. So there's unconsciously created where you're creating not necessarily beyond thought because your repetitive thoughts bring things into form. But what we were talking about when we were talking about this particular topic is creating outside of our mind and our thoughts and stepping into new possibilities, which are beyond what you can possibly imagine. So there's an aspect of where you don't get caught up in the how of it or the why of it or whatever. I like to use open-ended intentions, like where the world is unfolding in my favor. And then I step into it and then I notice what is different and then my life unfolds and reorganizes in that way. And it's letting go of the little will that wants control. Because when you realize that you are consciousness creating all of this down to the smallest detail, there's no need for control because because you are the creator.
You don't fight yourself so much when you come from a place of consciousness about it.
Yes.
Right. It works with us. It supports us. And it's saying, what is it you want? And we think something. And it creates it. It doesn't judge what the creation is. So we can judge it as good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever. But consciousness doesn't. It's just there. What is it you like? What do you get out of it? And in the state of heart-centered awareness, it's just allowed to be from the right brain informational source, the pictures and the information free of, well, it has to be this or it has to be that.
Yeah, and when you identify as consciousness, that you are consciousness creating this, you have an ownership of it, and you have a sense of seniority, and I don't know if either of those are really accurate words, but you own the creation in a different way than when you're creating from the realm of thought, and it feels like something's being given to you, because it's still that there's something outside of you that's creating the reality in this hologram.
Well, I don't think many of us have the experience of what that non-judgmental state is, what heart-centered awareness is. So the bias isn't present, so it allows for all. And most of us are so focused on interpretation and experiencing information certain ways, and so that dictates what consciousness brings us, that exchange that's happening there. And we're the ones who put the flavor of right or wrong in there. And for some reason, I seem to be needing to say that. So there's some element here.
Yeah, you said it twice, so it's interesting.
Yes, I have.
And then I've said something different back to you twice because you're not hearing me. No.
No, not at all.
No,
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing something different.
Well, you know what I think?
That doesn't mean I'm not hearing you.
No, actually, and what I think is that we're talking to people who are expanding to this new awareness.
Right.
But the idea that they are consciousness is huge.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm all about letting people know they are consciousness because it is huge and it does completely transform your life when you start to realize and live life that way. It becomes fun and enjoyable. And here's the thing, randomness. We were talking about randomness the other day because I see as greater consciousness comes into the world, into form, things do become more random and, things happening out of the blue and unexpected, bizarre story plots are happening.
And the randomness is really user friendly. I think that's what it's us expanding into our awareness of what we don't know. And that's good because we're getting beyond our own setup. And so that's not a hostile thing. It may feel hostile, but it is actually an opportunity to reorganize.
And I would say that when you are identifying as consciousness, you don't perceive it as hostile. You have fun with it, and it feels lighthearted, and it feels opening, and it feels buoyant. If you are feeling things as hostile, or if you are, I had many years where I did not feel like it was a benevolent universe. It's like God was not doing stuff in my favor. God, my Father, was not doing stuff in my favor. And that's from that very limited viewpoint of your body and your personality. And bodies take things very seriously because they're not going to make it out of this lifetime alive. Is this going to kill me? I don't want to go forward. The future does not exist in my reality, so that means I'm going to be dead. I don't want to do anything different. And the greater aspect of yourself is, maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. It's all floating down a lazy river.
Well, so what comes to mind is that how randomness and systemic, because the body is systemic. It's got
describe systemic. You're using those big words. Yeah.
Well, systemic being there's a system here. There's a follow through. There's some place you start. There's some place you end, and it's a looping mechanism of communication, information flow.
It's a system that becomes systemic.
Yeah, it's a systemic state. There's also randomness, and randomness is potential. It's no thing yet, and so it's all available. So we interact between these two. We take the random and we make a system out of it. We take, and then it reverses itself. We can take the system apart, which is what a pattern is. It becomes a system. And then it goes back to randomness. It goes back to potential. And that's new thinking for me as we're talking about that. And being able to integrate better the different states that are being held in the same time and place. So if I view that, and this is important because I want to create something different for myself.
Yeah.
If I want to create something different, then that means where I am right now, I don't have it. And so what do I have? If I release the need, the drive, whatever, and open to the information that's there, seemingly random or not, then I can start to create anew. But I can't do it with the old. The old is telling me where I'm stuck, where I am. And,
well, that's like operating off of your internal GPS.
Yeah.
You know, we have this cluster of cells in the left side of our brain that is our GPS. They're responsible for the organizing aspect. It reminds us that we need to pick up, you know, our dry cleaning, or we've got an appointment tomorrow, or any of those things. And it also has absorbed all the programming from, you know, childhood to keep us safe, and societal norms and everything else. So it becomes this big clustered, you know, and but it's like a GPS that you've never updated the maps, and it'll take you right through downtown in rush hour because it doesn't know that it can go a block over and get you on the freeway. So, we're operating with GPSs like that. And when we start to do something completely different or brand new, the alarm bells go off. It's like the world is going to end if you cross the road without holding your mother's hand. I don't know, Janet, if you really want to hold your mother's hand across, maybe to keep her from crossing the road.
Really.
So this is all about expanding beyond the mind and doing things differently, and doing it, allowing for the unexpected and enjoying the randomness.
And if you use the GPS analogy, you know, you punch in where you want to go. Right? You give yourself the location. And then you start out, and I don't know about you, but I've certainly experienced this, is that something happens in between here and there, and I get off I go off what it tells me where I should be going. And then it course corrects. It says, oh, this is where you are and this is where you want to go. It's constantly updating itself. And I can keep doing lots of different things. It's still holding the course, but the course is changing all the time. The location, the destination there is still there. I think that's the way it works. I don't know.
You have one of the fancy ones.
Oh.
that checks the traffic.
I see.
But if you have these older ones that don't check the traffic, they're going to take you along prescribed routes. It's kind of funny because we have one in our car that it came with the car, and then we have on our phones, we have this great app that is much more tuned into things. And I'll have them both on at the same time. And it's fun when they start to contradict each other, because the one in the car gets all very tense and it's like recalculating. Whereas the one on my phone just goes and readjusts. And then sometimes I know the route to go, and it'd be much faster if I make a left right here. And so I'll make a left right there and let feathers fly.
Yeah, because there is an agenda in that GPS.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. I drive this every day. I know the traffic patterns. Why is it sending me out there? Right? That's not the quick, direct way to get there.
Well, that's also a great analogy for operating off your GPS rather than your own intuition and really your greater consciousness. Right. So a thing to think about when we talk about greater consciousness is it's a greater aspect of yourself, and it's really like the cosmic internet. All the information is available to you. And there's a small portion of you that's actually operating in your physical form. They're like the genie. You can only squeeze a little bit of yourself into this living space. And the greater aspect of you has all that information. And that's different. It's a different experience than most of the world has been in, where we don't trust our intuition. We have to go to something more knowledgeable outside ourselves. And that's where you get the GPS sending you down the same road everybody else goes when your heart is calling you to climb every mountain.
Well, and there's also the place where you put your destination in, and that's not where you want to go. There's
it's the mind that programmed it.
Yeah, and then you find yourself on this path or this street or however you want to look at this, view this, and you go, oh, this is much more interesting. Now, either one could have been interesting. When it routed me what seems to be the long way around or whatever, I would experience different information. I would have still gotten to the same place, but there's two different ways. A myriad of ways to get to that destination. And so when we go to create, when we're looking at it, there are no rights and wrongs in this. It's just being in what mindset, what reality you're in an alignment with, because we're talking a lot about intention and expectation and how those have to align in order to create. And as consciousness, it's a lot easier when those are working together.
Yes. And I realized there's a phase, I think, that we go through when we are really expanding to this greater consciousness, and we suddenly realize that, you know, we've created everything down to the smallest detail, and suddenly we lose our original intentions, and we lose our original desires, because our desires are born out of the not having, or the feeling like the lack that you need or want something.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny to observe, because sometimes people will go into this kind of blah. It's like blah. And it's not that they're not enjoying themselves or whatever, but it's suddenly they just don't have those needs anymore. They're not driven by those desires, because every moment is a new experience.
You've got to hear your self-talk, right? What we call self-talk.
Yeah.
Right? Because you mentioned earlier there's a
That's
2 year.
the GPS is part of that.
Yeah, the 2-year cycle on a thought and manifesting it. And the challenge for us is that it's not that you have a thought and 2 years later it happens or doesn't happen. It's that you have the thought today, and then you have it tomorrow, and you have it tomorrow, and then it goes unconscious. Right. And the thought is still running. So that 2 years goes way out there.
And the repeating it, there's in Abraham Hicks, hold for 17 seconds kind of thing. The repetition gives it density.
Totally.
And, so that is the old way of creating in this world. And old, like this was from the 80s and the 90s, but it's an older form of bringing things into material reality. And there's a validity to it. If you think about the affirmations and the vision boards, it's all about reprogramming your GPS. Mm-hmm. What's happening now is things can happen instantaneously. Yeah. And you can just shift into the being of the new experience, and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we want to, that's what's so interesting about now, is that there is more energy, or there is more potential available. There's more awareness of potential as consciousness, to pull from, to access to that unique flavor that you only find as consciousness, where there are no limits, there are no boundaries, there are no anything. It's just information shows up in some way. You can see it, you can feel it, you have a sensory experience of it. And what if that was the guideline? What if that was the GPS, a new update? And then the rest of me that's thinking about something and saying yes or no and rationalizing or reasoning what came out of consciousness, that state of consciousness awareness, can just shut up for a while, because we all can talk ourselves out of anything. We can validate anything. We can rationalize anything. So it depends upon where that voice is coming from. That's not the one we're encouraging to respond. We're encouraging the voice that says, hello, and you go, whoa, who's that? And you find that it's coming out of a different place. That's not necessarily hearing voices. What I'm talking about is how in that space of the sacred and the quiet, something will happen and show up. And what if everything was available, that was the reality, that was real, and that you can do this and you can have this, and you realize you don't really want so much after a while. It's not about the things, and it's not about the places, and it's not about the people. It's just about being. And that has no limit on it.
That is really the essence of what this world is. I talk about it's not a school to learn lessons. It's a playground to experience. And the idea that life is or that physical reality is an illusion is kind of a distortion in terms, because physical reality is physically real and it's meant to be physically experienced. That's the unique and delicious thing about it, is that we are here to taste the chocolate and have the hot baths and walk in the trees and things like that. So it is real from that perspective. And then also as consciousness, it is malleable and can be different. It can be changed, transformed, and be different. And when you realize that you are an infinite being, then that you are consciousness creating all of this, then you lose the desire to manifest the little material stuff and just are all about enjoying the experience. I think I just said what you said with different words.
In group, we notice this, and clients. There's, people often have unclarity about what they're doing, where they're going in their lives, and what's showing up. And anytime those people come to group, and certainly when we're in session, but when we come to group, that all disappears. People still have their issues, but in this state, I can ask them, well, what do you notice about that? And there's all this information. They understand, they tap in immediately to why they haven't got what they thought they wanted. It's always present. And that's what's so fascinating, because the human can be quite distinctly blitzoed and that's part of it. That's when when you cannot figure something out, or it's this or that or blah, blah, blah. That's the dance. You need to go to this space because it'll be right there. And a lot of times it's not what you want to hear. A lot of times it might be surprising. A lot of times it is so validating. So that's what makes it interesting.
Yes. And it's interesting you talk about the term validating, because there's validation, there's acknowledgement, and then there's noticing. And I feel like they're all really the same thing, because when you notice something and you're acknowledging it and you're validating its awareness that it is real.
Ah, okay. Well, that might be little different degrees in that to me. Validating would seem to be a word that says something is there, something is real.
Are you thinking more like appreciation?
Yeah, maybe so. I'm sure in science and math they use the term validating differently, but that there's, for me to notice something, because I can get that. I get what you're talking about. So because I can notice it, it is real. In that environment, yes, in that state it is real. So it is acknowledgement and validation. Where in a different state of mind, it might not appear that way, or seem that way, or be that way, or whatever I want to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of touching base with something you had said earlier, and I can't remember the exact words you said now.
Good luck with that.
But it was something to the effect about, we can create our reality any way we want to create our reality, and we're creating it through our perceptions. And so, if your GPS hasn't been updated since 1953, then it's going to be steering you through a reality that is, that is kind of distorted and kind of uncomfortable and sending you off down dark alleyways. And, it's something about opening to consciousness turns the lights on and clears the way and has you realize how expansive and joyous this world really is.
I think what we want to offer listeners just before we go to commercial break,
yes,
everyone, is that we are in a heart-centered awareness and some level of awareness of the heart-centered awareness. Okay? So take a moment to just notice something that is maybe challenging you or puzzles you or something. And what if we just, in this state, invite awareness to resolve that in some way today? And so you don't have to be specifically focused and waiting. What you're doing is you're inviting information to show up. And so as we go to commercial, invite something to show up that you'd like to have more information on. And you're going to do it from this place, not your rationalizing and reasoning, and you're not going to judge it. You're just going to invite that information to be present sometime today. And what would that be like?
All right. So hold that awareness or release it and let it show up and surprise you. But we have to stop for a commercial break. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And stay tuned. We're talking about creating as consciousness beyond thought when we come back.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about creating as consciousness beyond thought.
I'm getting the sense to track this. Yeah. An awareness is moving in, let's put it that way,
yes,
coming across my beingness, and it's about my beingness, right? Or anybody's beingness. That this is
none
really
of your beingness.
Yeah. That this is opening up a bit.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I can feel that. Good job, people.
Yes.
And whatever time and space you're in and listening to this, you are part of this. And what if it just loosened up a little bit, which is powerful, powerful.
Yes. As consciousness, there is no time or space. So regardless of when you're actually listening to this, you have created this experience.
Right.
In the here and now. And whatever that means. Whatever that means. There's this great sense of a collective awareness happening here.
Yeah. So just noticing. And I liked your distinctions. Well, maybe they weren't distinctions, just flavors of words. So about recognizing and validating and acknowledging. Yeah. You know, this is also subjective to the individual. And so what we can share is that an opening is available and we are in it. What you do with it is going to be up to you. And we invite you to feel the openness. And a lot of people can be threatened by openness because it sounds like vulnerable. And it's not that. This isn't about strong or weak and vulnerable. This is about just unfolding into areas that you maybe haven't been in within yourself. Don't you think, Joan?
I can see how you would define it as vulnerable. I've been in a particular growth space myself, which has been softening and expanding, and it has a vulnerability to it. Mm-hmm. And as you were saying that, I was realizing that we think of, being powerful and owning your space and all that, and how actually solid and rigid that is. Mm-hmm. And it's not really a strong space when you're coming from that standpoint. The rigidity itself is limited.
Isn't that the art of the martial artist? It's not about his force. It's about his openness to moving in the flow.
Yes.
Right? And it's that incredibly strong, we're going to use that label, present. And it's really about, strength is really about presence, I think, in this context. About being able to focus, and in that there is what we perceive as, a lot of integrity. It's strong, solid. And it's really not that. It's just holding a placeholder. Oh yeah, there we go, people. Just relax. Yeah. I so enjoy our shows, Joan.
I'm glad.
I so enjoy playing with you and sharing this space with you and all those wonderful listeners out there who are part of this for us, because it just validates, notices, whatever the word might be.
Well, I really appreciate you as well, because you really, of everyone that I know, you're the one person who rocks this completely. And even though we have different approaches and different language to describe it even, it's just very few of us floating out there on the leading edge that really gets this.
And it's really not about knowing the technology of it all. It's just about allowing it to be.
Yes.
Right. It is. Yes. And it's not about faith. It's allowing it to be. There's a difference between being and faith. So, but I guess it's time for us to wrap up with our final comments here.
Exactly. So real quick, let you know, if you want to know anything else about us, go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. All our podcasts are there. All the blogs that Janet and I have written are there. All the postings about our meetups are there. All the stuff about our sessions. There are, I believe, links to our Facebook pages. Our Facebook pages are our names, and Twitter, and we're on YouTube, and some of our YouTube stuff is posted there as well. We have a conscious conference call coming up on the 20th. That's Thursday, April 20th. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific. You can go there to sign up for it. And I do have an opening for a private coaching client. If you would like to dive deep with me, if you would like me to be your Yoda, I would be happy. And
the red hair Yoda. Okay.
The kind of really tall, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really Joan Kenobi.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh.
That sounds good. So let's see.
Yeah, and I have a meetup on Vashon this weekend in Bellevue next week. So I do the northern and the Puget Sound and of the Northwest here, and Janet does Portland.
Yeah. It's a happening place, right?
And
Northwest is full of good stuff.
Right. We have clients from all around the world. We're non-local. Yeah. Conscious Conference Call is non-local.
Yeah, really. We're very fortunate with those who join us. We appreciate them deeply because they help enrich this, as you do, listeners. So however you're partaking of our state of awareness, we thank you very much and look forward to joining you again, right?
Yes.
Someplace along the way there.
Someplace along the way. So, yes. Sounds like we're sliding into home. So, should we just go ahead and skip off into the sunset? Sing Happy Trails.
Happy trails
to you until we meet again.
There you go, everyone. Right. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to be with you.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett.
And tune in next week. Same time, same channel.
And we'll see what our names will be next time.
Exactly.
Right? Could be Joni, could be Janny. Who knows?
Could be Barry and Nuki.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.